let's hear an introductory story from the Gita-mahatmya, which is a Vedic scripture glorifying the Bhagavad-gita, illustrating the power of each chapter through a narrative, a story. This story shows the Bhagavad-gita destroys all reactions of our past sinful activities. The fortunate man who regularly reads a chapter, a verse, or even half a verse from the Bhagavad-gita attains such an elevated position as Susharma. But who was he? Susharma was a callous, sinful rascal. Although born into a noble, intellectual Brahmana family in India, his parents lacked Vedic knowledge. Unfortunately, Susharma's sheer happiness was to cause suffering to others. He never sang the names of the Lord, never gave in charity, and never invited anyone to his house as a guest. He earned his living by collecting leaves and selling them on the market. He was extremely attached to meat eating and wine drinking, which are strictly avoided by pure Brahmanas. He led his whole life in this way. One day, the foolish Susharma was collecting leaves in a private garden when a snake bit him and he died. In his next life, he became a bull and was bought by a cruel landlord who put him to work immediately. For the next 8 years, the bull was made to carry the heaviest loads. One day, the greedy landlord put on him an especially heavy burden and pushed him on so intensely that the bull stumbled and collapsed unconscious on the road. Soon, lots of curious people surrounded him and grieved over the bull's ill fate. A pious man came forward and offered some of the fruits of his pious activities to the bull. He hoped that if the bull had some of the auspicious reactions resulting from his pious deeds, then the beast would have a better next life. Hearing this, all the onlookers also offered some of the results of their past pious deeds to the bull. In the crowd, there was a prostitute who could not decide whether she had performed any pious activities in her life. But to avoid looking bad, she declared, "Should I have done any pious activities in the past, may this bull get all the results." Nevertheless, the old, exhausted bull couldn't be saved. He soon gave up his body, and his soul was brought before Yamaraj, the Lord of Death, who told him, "Now you are free from all sinful reactions of your past lives, owing the prostitute who offered to you the fruits of her pious acts." Then the former Susharma, who had been living as a bull, took birth again into an illustrious Brahmana family. However, this time he was able to remember his previous life. Growing up, he was getting more and more curious to know how it was possible that he owed it to a courtesan that he had gotten rid of his miserable condition and was born again as a human. When he finally found her, who by that time was a middle-aged woman, he asked her, "Tell me, what kind of pious activities had you done in your life, the fruits of which set me free from the reactions of my sins and terrible life?" "My dear sir," said the lady, as she pointed at a birdcage, "a parrot is living here with me, and he keeps repeating something every day. The only thing I can think of is that due to the power of those words, my heart has become pure. While you were dying in the body of the bull, I offer the results of this parrot's word to you unconsciously. The Gita-mahatmya goes on to recall the story of this parrot. Once upon a time, in a previous birth, the parrot was also a learned man, a brahmana. But because he was proud, he was offending others all the time. He was also awfully jealous of the success of everyone he knew. As a result, he had to suffer by being born as a parrot. Due to the results of his past sinful activities, he lost his parents as a nestling. One day, when the bird was lying in the sand, abandoned, a sage found him, carried him home, and nurtured him in a birdcage. The parrot was living in the same room with the sage's children, who were reciting verses from the first chapter of the Bhagavad-gita as part of their studies. The parrot naturally learned the frequently heard shlokas and started repeating them from the beginning of the Gita. Dharma kshetre kurukshetre samaveta yujutsava. These are the first words of the first verse. Sometimes later, a thief stole the bird cage from the Brahmana's home and sold it to the lady, who was living as a prostitute at that time. The soul, living in the parrot's body, had become completely pure because of repeating the Gita. As the prostitute regularly heard the verses, her consciousness was also gradually purified. And when Susharma, living in a bull's body, got her blessings, the reactions of his past sinful activities also vanished. We can learn from this story how mighty an effect the knowledge and repetition of even one chapter or one verse of the Bhagavad-gita has. The parrot heard the Gita from the children and handed it over unconsciously to the lady, who probably did not even know what the parrot was repeating. Nevertheless, the transcendental sound vibration of the Gita could set a soul free from the animal form of life in such an indirect way.